Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. My name is Kelly Crocker and I'm one of the ministers here. And today I am joined by my colleague, the Reverend Roger Birchhausen, the worship team of Drew Collins, Linda Warren, Heather Thorpe, Daniel Carnes, and Stephen Gregorius. We'll also be joined by the Keck family who will be leading us in our chalice lighting. The vision of First Unitarian Society is growing souls, connecting with one another, and embodying our Unitarian Universalist values in our lives, our community, and our world. We're so glad you are with us virtually this morning. We hope you will be able to join us for our virtual coffee hour immediately following service. Well, we will have Reverend Roger as our guest of honor, as we thank him for our time here with us over the past year. The information for joining Coffee Hour can be found on the homepage of our website, fusmadison.org. And I invite you now to join in a moment of silence, to center yourselves, to come fully into this time as we join together once again in community.
Our opening words today come from former James Reeb UU member, Reverend Ian Riddell. Come, come, whoever you are.
Do you hear that voice calling you, calling us? That voice which calls us together here today in this time made holy by our presence and by the sacred breath we share in our singing and our speaking and in silence. That voice which calls us to remember that we are not alone, that we are inextricably linked to all other life, woven into a vast tapestry of existence of which we are a powerful, integral, and holy part.
And just as we've been called together here today, we act as the voice, the heart, the hands of another call. The call to walk with the wanderers, sing and dance with the worshipers, proclaim the memory of those who have taken their leave, wrap the despairing and the broken in the arms of love and community, and hold the hands of all of us who have broken our vows and call us back again and again to the covenant and to the work of justice, humility, and steadfast faithfulness.
For this, we are here together today. So, my friends, come yet again. Come, let us worship together.
And we invite you now to light a candle or a chalice at your home as the Keck family leads us in an affirmation.
With a spark of hope, we light our chalice. May it kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice.
In body and or spirit, to sing with us today's opening hymn, number 1010, We Give Thanks. precious day, for all gathered here, and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Our story today is called Sustaining the Tree of Life from Lynn Gardner. The tree stood in the middle of the village. Its trunk was so large that it took 6 people holding hands to reach around it. The roots were strong and wide, and its branches spread out over the village square, offering shelter from the rain or shade from the summer sun. Its fruit was juicy, sweet, and plentiful.
The people of the village loved the tree. Children played beneath it and climbed it in the lowest branches. Young people knew that if you whispered your dreams to the tree, they were more likely to come true. People who proclaimed their love and friendship for one another beneath its branches found their relationships to be nourishing, and elders discovered that their sweetest memories could be counted on when they were near the giant tree. The tree had been witness to so much, and when the breezes blew through the leaves, one could hear echoes of generations, laughter, conversations, dreams, prayers, and songs.
Animals loved the tree too. Rabbits lived in burrows under the roots. Squirrels and monkeys lived in the branches, and bats and birds flew in to eat the abundant fruit. The tree seemed to buzz with life.
One day, a traveling merchant arrived in the village. He rested in the shade and ate 2 pieces of delicious fruit. "This fruit is incredible," he said. "I would like to have some to sell in the next villages that I visit. Who owns this tree?"
"No one owns this tree," replied a villager. "If anything, we belong to it."
"Well then, if no one owns this tree, then no one will mind if I pick the fruit."
"I mind, and today I am the keeper of the tree."
"What do you mean, keeper of the tree?"
"We each take our turn being here with the tree. We could never own it. We are here as protectors, as sustainers."
"That's ridiculous. This tree doesn't need you. You could just take what you need, take what you want. The tree will continue."
"Sir, this tree isn't like that. We don't come here to take from it, even though we receive much. We are keepers of the tree because this is where we are nourished. This is where some of our most precious memories are and where our people have dreamed. This is where we remember who we want to become."
"Well, you may think this tree is very special, but it still doesn't need you to sit with it. That is preposterous."
The tree itself may not need me, but what of others who come by? Just this morning, I sat with a woman whose heart was heavy with worry. Had I not been here, she would have had to carry that weight alone. And this afternoon, a tired couple came by and they rested with me. They said they had been looking for a place like this. And then an elder came by and we watched the birds and the branches together. And now you are here. You were confused about what this tree is and how to be with it. Imagine if you had arrived and not found anyone here to talk with. You might have continued thinking that everything you do is all about you. Luckily for you, my friend, I'm here to let you know that when you care for the tree of life, it becomes about so much more than just you.
And so the merchant sat for a while in the shade, thinking about these ideas that felt new and a little bit challenging. As the sun went down, he picked up his bag and he headed out of town, whistling a song that he hadn't thought of in years. On his way, he shared a smile with each person he met, his heart feeling strangely light and joyful.
And the people of that village, they continued to sustain the tree of life, to care for one another, to share their gifts with grace and gratitude. May it be so for each of us. I invite you now into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering which sustains and strengthens First Unitarian Society and our work in the world. You will see on your screen that you can donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. You will also see our text to give information there. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
It's been interesting to live in Madison for a year after living in Appleton for 25 years. This probably doesn't come as a shock to you, but in places like Appleton, an eye roll often accompanies any mention of Madison. There's a sense that Madisonians sometimes see themselves as living in a superior place, You know, amazing lakes, lots of culture, wonderful restaurant scene, enlightened views. Sometimes the perception is reinforced when we outstate folks meet Madisonians and they give us a look like, oof, Appleton. So sorry you have to live there. So no doubt much of this dynamic says something about Appleton and other outstate folks as well as Madison folks. There's kind of an inferiority complex. That's likely part of the equation too, because actually this is an amazing place. The lakes are beautiful. Haven't had much chance to do the restaurants or the culture, but I'm sure they're great, and there certainly are a lot of enlightened folks here. Well, that's Madison. Shifting our attention to Unitarian Universalism in the United States, I have long thought that the primary sin of American UUs is hubris, along with hubris's close cousin, self-righteousness. In UU congregations, there's kind of a sense sometimes that we are superior to other people, and that's sort of just below the surface or above the surface. I call this spiritual Darwinism. Like social Darwinists, we misuse Darwin's theories to assert that because we have banished superstitions, we are the more fit people spiritually. I saw a variation of this work in my partner church work, so many American UUs have a sense of superiority in approaching Unitarians and Unitarian Universalist partners in places like Transylvania and the Philippines. Once they get more educated, we seem to think they'll know better. They'll get rid of some of those sort of superstitious viewpoints. Hubris is a good label for this. And the truth is, we are not superior spiritually. We and our overseas partners are beautiful, flawed people doing our best to develop and live our beliefs. We stumble, we make mistakes, sometimes we learn, we do wonderful things. We are whole people, made in the image of the divine, but also prone to making mistakes. So what I have to say to you today, FUS community, is that as Madisonians, as Unitarian Universalists, as members of one of the 5 largest UU congregations in the country, housed in an extraordinary landmark building with a beautiful addition, hubris might be something you have to deal with every now and then. It feels like you have learned a lot about your congregation during these past 3 years. You have been in a liminal period betwixt and between what you were and what you will become. Ministerial transition, especially after a long, stable, successful, impactful ministry, is a liminal space. Limen, the Latin root for liminal, means threshold. In a liminal space, you travel from familiar space across a threshold into space that is other, you have experiences, and then you return to your old space across the threshold. But you, and often your old space, or at least how you experience it, have changed. You cross that threshold when you leave the familiar, you cross the threshold when you return, and you're back in your old place, but it's different. The picture I have in mind of liminal space is a pilgrimage that I observed many years ago in one of the most sacred Hindu sites in Sri Lanka, the island nation off the southeast coast of India. The temple that I saw is a shrine to the deity Kathragama, a guardian deity in Sri Lanka, probably the most important Hindu deity there. For those who have an interest in the Hindu pantheon, Kathragama is a manifestation of the god Skanda, one of Shiva's sons, along with Ganesh. Like many pilgrimage sites, the Kathragama temple is surrounded by water. Pilgrims need to cross a narrow body of water to enter the temple. This can be done by walking over a bridge, or, as is the custom for most pilgrims, bathing in the water and walking through it. This passage over or through water symbolizes leaving the everyday life and moving into this liminal space. While I was there, I observed a pilgrim go into a trance during a ceremony venerating Katragama. She started dancing wildly, speaking ecstatically. I've never seen anything like it before or since. Through a translator, we talked to her brother, who explained that she was temporarily possessed by the god. For her, it was a once-in-a-lifetime pilgrimage to this temple, and for her, likely the only time in her life where she would have an experience of possession. Her brother had no doubt that when she crossed that water out of the temple site and returned to her home, she would be forever changed. Her ecstatic experience in that liminal space of the temple would impact and shape her for the rest of her life. Another example of that kind of liminal space in a sense of pilgrimage is the first movie in the Star Wars epic. In that movie, Luke Skywalker leaves the familiar. He travels into this liminal space that is full of danger and opportunity and possibility, and he returns changed forever. So we learn a lot about ourselves in liminal space. As I saw this pilgrimage in Sri Lanka, as I saw in that in the Luke Skywalker story, liminal space is full of possibility, opportunity, and also danger. First Unitarian Society has been in liminal space for these past 3 years. Of course, it looks pretty different from the pilgrimage I witnessed in Sri Lanka. I'm guessing no one here has been possessed by a deity. But structurally, there are similarities. What was before ended. You've been in this unfamiliar territory that has had moments of possibility, opportunity, and danger. It has been hard. Some of the folks who were here at the beginning have left and are not coming back. And let me say, they're adults and they can make that decision. I'm sorry about it, but they can make it. Others have stepped back, but are planning to come back at least to check out things, get the new lay of the land at FUS this fall. Some of you stepped into deeper, more significant roles during this time, and some new folks joined, even during these pandemic months. Now, no doubt the pandemic exacerbated all these dynamics of this liminal period. The pandemic, of course, upended just about everything in our lives. Already in different territory, suddenly you as a congregation lost so much that has been a continuity for FUS for so many years, most notably your access to this building. The danger and the tumult of ministerial transition was greatly magnified by the pandemic. Not only did you lose a part of your identity that has centered for 60 plus years on strong senior ministries, first Max Gabler's and then Michael Schuler's, you also lost for an extended period of time the identity that this landmark building has given you for the last 70 years. A lot has been stripped away during these 3 years. My guess is that some of you have been disappointed in at least some of what's happened during these 3 years. I'm guessing a fair amount of you felt at times disappointed in one another in this faith community. Some, I'm sure, have felt disappointed in yourselves. In short, I'm guessing this has been a humbling experience for many of you and for this congregation as a whole. And that's not a bad thing. As Unitarian Universalists in a flagship UU congregation in a city prone to hubris, experiencing a little humility can be helpful to a congregation's spiritual and emotional health. I think in many ways, it's a gift. I want to share about another gift this time of liminal space has given you. So you have a reputation in the UU Association of being somewhat cold and aloof. And honestly, this is how I experienced FUS when I occasionally preached here during my years in Appleton. I also had a sense from afar that staff here sometimes felt treated in a cold and consumerist way, that the congregation's relationship with staff was characterized more by expectation and entitlement than gratitude. All of this was the biggest point of hesitation I had about coming to FUS as your interim minister. And so I braced myself when I got ready to come here last summer. And I did not need to. My experience with you has been completely the opposite of what I expected and feared. My experience has been exponentially more characterized by gratitude and warmth than coldness and aloofness. Gratitude has been deep, it's been palpable, it's been everywhere. You have been incredibly hospitable and welcoming to me. You have been forgiving and gracious about my shortcomings, my mistakes, my learning curve as a new interim minister. Nowhere was your gratitude and warmth more evident than in that incredible celebration we had of Reverend Kelly's 20th anniversary. So what happened? Perhaps your reputation was overstated. But more significantly, I would guess, the humility of this liminal experience, as well as the gratitude you felt to staff and each other when FUS continued in spite of physically being closed, somehow changed and opened your hearts. A huge lesson of the pandemic for many of us has been to take things a little less for granted. Most of us could not even imagine 18 months ago how challenging it could be just to go to the grocery store. We could not imagine having our church building closed for months and months and months. So here's the challenge for all of you as FUS crosses the threshold from ministerial transition and a closed building in these coming months to a new ministry team and a reopened building. You gotta hang on to this humility and this gratitude that you've experienced and expressed so generously over these months. It will be so easy for all of us to fall back into the old negative habits that the pandemic stripped away. Nothing, in my view, will be more important as you journey back into your old, changed life together than to hang on to that humility and that gratitude. Nothing will be more important. And one more thing, make space for joy and for having fun together. What most struck me in this whole process we just went through of creating a relational covenant was the hunger that so many of you have to have this be a joyful space. No doubt congregational life is serious business. We come together to make sense of life, including and maybe especially the difficult parts of life. We come together to grieve, to be supported in grief. We come together for solace when we are struggling. We come together to be reminded of important learnings and values that we momentarily forget. But we also need a place where we can come and celebrate and laugh and play and have fun. We need a place where joy can pop up at any moment. This is a great thing that many of us who are white have learned from Black and Indigenous and people of color, that bringing joy to the struggle is necessary. It is a tool for survival. So FUS friends, stay humble. Cultivate an attitude of gratitude. Make space for joy. And related to these things, stay open, keep learning and growing. Bring curiosity to FUS with you. Build on the rich, rich legacy of the past and move forward into your next beautiful chapter You are ready. You are ready. Go.
Here in this place of refuge, we turn our minds toward silence and our full hearts toward one another. We move together through the mysteries, the bright surprise of birth and the shadowed questions of death. In our slow walk between the two, we will be wounded and we will be showered with grace, amazing and unending. Even in our sorrows, we feel our lives cradled in a holiness we cannot comprehend. And though we each walk within a vast loneliness, the promise we offer here is that we do not walk alone. This week, we are holding in our hearts Sarah O'Callaghan, sister-in-law of Mike and Alyssa Ryanjoy, who passed away Tuesday evening after a battle with cancer. Their family is deeply grieving her loss. We are sending our love to Mike, Alyssa, Thea, and Winnie, along with their extended family, especially Mike's brother Brian and their 3 children, Sadie, Mickey, and Jimmy. This is a holy place in which we gather. The light of the earth brought and held, touched then by an answering light, the flame of a chalice, the flicker of a candle, the lamps of our open faces brought near. In this place of silence and celebration, solemnity and music, we make a sanctuary and are welcomed home. Blessed be, and amen. Almost 20 years ago now, I attended my first ministers' gathering of what was then the Central Midwest District. Over many years and many gatherings, I learned much from my colleagues and learned that one develops, as much as they might not want to admit it, favorites. From the very beginning, the Reverend Roger Burchausen was a favorite. We then served together on the Unitarian Universalist Partner Church Council Board, and that status was sealed. Roger and I would joke off and on over the years that we wanted to work together someday. And I have no words today to express the depth of my gratitude that our shared hope was realized, but I'm going to try. Roger, these are the words of many of our staff, as I try to speak gratitude on behalf of all of us. Your presence has astounded us. You met this challenging time, the third year of a long interim process, with grace, patience, wisdom, and humor. You joined us 4 months into a global pandemic, and you have been able to connect with this congregation in deep and rich ways, almost exclusively through a screen. And you have made this look practically effortless, which we know it wasn't. Throughout the past year, you have listened to us wholeheartedly, helped us to think strategically about our future, reflected back to us all that you were seeing. You spoke hard truths with honesty and compassion, all while being fully committed to moving us forward in ways that would strengthen our community. You have done this through sermons that have challenged and inspired and spoke to the deeper truths living among us. Through virtual coffee hours, board meetings, staff meetings, pub theology sessions, one-on-ones, small groups, ministry team meetings, dressing up as the Easter Bunny and hearing children and adults recognize you from your voice alone, and so much more. We have benefited from your long tenure in Appleton and your willingness to share your learnings from that good ministry with us, as well as your awareness of our global faith connections and our larger denominational connections here at home. Roger worked closely with our ministerial search team over the past year, so I reached out to them and I asked if they would like to share the impact of Roger's ministry on their work. So these are their words. Roger's invaluable assistance was a great source of support as we conducted the ministerial search. He served to model a collaborative and equitable co-ministry with Reverend Kelly C., making real for us the very qualities we were seeking. Our unique search for a co-minister required us to break ground for a new process. Roger was always available to us, individually and collectively, showing up and sticking with us when we reached stumbling points. When the path of discernment became obscure, Roger provided encouragement, validation, and support, both pastoral and practical, with kindness and humor. With grateful and loving hearts, we wish him the best in his next ministry. Personally, I want to thank you for the impact you've had on my ministry here. Together, we have been able to live into collaborative ministry, and you have given me a space to learn and grow and discover what co-ministry could really look like here in this community. You have challenged me, supported me, helping me grow into the minister I need to be in this new role. You have already given Team Kelly a strong foundation as we begin our work. And we will do so knowing that we build upon your wisdom, your strength, your integrity, kindness, and grace. And we are eternally grateful that our relationship with you, our dear colleague, continues. Roger, to say we will miss you is truly an understatement. You have held us accountable to the best of who we want to be, all while helping us dream. You have changed each of us in our community for the better, and we are filled with thanks for this time you have been with us. You leave us all the better for your ministry here, ready for what is to come, with grateful hearts, uplifted souls, and excited about our future. For all of it and more, Roger, we thank you.
And I'll say back at you, Kelly, and all of you. So I leave here the better for my ministry with you on all that I've learned from you, from the incredible staff here, from such a visionary and dedicated board and other leaders. Everything I learned here in my first year of interim ministry will go with me. I'll think of you often. You have helped me become, I hope, a good interim minister. And so I'm deeply grateful. And yeah, we always wanted to work together, and it was everything and more. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll be looking from afar with joy as things unfold here. Thank you, thank you.
Please join us in our closing hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
That is our life, we sing our thanks and praise, for all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
And so, FUS friends, stay humble. Cultivate an attitude of gratitude. Make space for joy. May these coming months be full of wonder, gratitude, and joy as you move into your next chapter. May it be so, and go in peace.